Today's lesson is asking about transportation. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today we are continuing to talk about transportation. When you travel to some place, of course, you need to figure out how to get around. This information might be useful for you because you might run into foreign tourists here in Taiwan who might get lost in the transportation system. They don't know which train to take in the MRT or Taitie or Gaotie or whatever. They might have some questions about that. So, of course, you need to ask about transportation. You need to ask about getting around. And, of course, the easiest way to get around is to buy a transportation card. And that's what Otto did last time. And then Tess seemed to get lost in the train system there. She missed her stop because she was on the express train when she should have been taking the local all-stops train.
Yeah, just a few of the common problems that you might have. And today we're going to have a couple more dialogues for you, detailing or covering a few other common problems. First of all, we'll be misunderstanding a timetable. This is probably when you're taking a train or maybe taking a bus at an odd time, right? Timetables or schedules do often change depending on what's going on or what day it is. And then also the fastest option. Maybe you don't have much time to get somewhere. Maybe you're late for your plane and have to figure out the trains out to the airport quickly. Well, we'll be covering all of those topics and more, starting now with misunderstanding the timetable, our third dialogue. Let's get into it.
3. Misunderstanding the timetable. Waiting at a bus stop, Otto begins to wonder why his bus still hasn't arrived.
Sorry to bother you, but is this the right stop for the 370 bus?
Yes, you're in the right place. It should come here.
Thanks. According to this timetable I found online, it's already 10 minutes late. Is that normal?
Let's have a look. You're looking at the weekday schedule. Today's a public holiday, so buses run less often.
Oh, I didn't know it's a holiday today. That explains it.
Yeah, you might have to wait a bit longer, but the bus should come eventually.
Thanks for clearing that up.
大家好，第一部分介绍动词 misunderstand， 它的意思是误会、误解。例如 Jenny misunderstood what I said, and now she's unhappy with me. Jenny 误解了我说的话，所以她现在对我有所不满。另外补充这个字的反义词 understand, U-N-D-E-R-S-T-A-N-D, understand 指理解、明白。可以说I understand why you made this decision. 我能理解你为何做这个决定。另一句 Your idea is really hard to understand. 你的想法很难让人理解。继续看到名词 timetable， 表示交通时刻表、时间表、排程表。例如 The bus timetable shows the bus departs every 30 minutes. 公车时刻表显示每30分钟发车一次。或是We need to stick to the timetable to finish everything on time. 我们必须遵守时间表，才能准时完成所有事。再来看到副词 eventually， 它的意思是最终、最后。例如 Eventually, Lucy solved the math problem. 最後 Lucy 解开了这道数学问题。也可以说 After several hours of tossing and turning, Greg eventually fell asleep. 经过数小时翻来覆去 Greg 终于睡着了。
Okay, so in conversation 3, we're talking about misunderstanding the timetable. So this is the verb to misunderstand something. That means you don't understand something in the way it's supposed to be understood. So, of course, a timetable, of course, is a list of all the times a bus or a train is going to stop at the station. I don't think a lot of people notice this, but in the MRT stations here in Taipei, there are timetables on the platforms, okay? Most people don't pay attention because they're just waiting for a train. Oh, one's going to come in about 5 minutes. I don't need to look at the time timetable. But that is just a chart that shows when the trains are supposed to come, and it will probably show when they arrive at other stations as well. But sometimes they're kind of difficult to read and you're not familiar with them, so you might misunderstand the timetable. And this is what has happened to Otto.
It's true. With most things in the city, as long as you wait a few minutes, something will come, whether it's a bus or a subway. But of course, when you're taking a train to a certain location, to another city, those timetables would be more important because the trains don't run as frequently and things like that. So timetables are important, but yes, they can be confusing, as Roger explained. So let's see what's going on here. It says, waiting at a bus stop, Otto begins to wonder why his bus still hasn't arrived. Okay, so maybe he looked at a timetable before. He thought it should come with about 5 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes at the most, but something's going on. Where is that bus? So luckily, he sees a local person walking by, and he decides to get some help. So he says, sorry to bother you, but is this the right stop for the 370 bus? All right, so sorry to bother you. Very nice, polite way to speak to a stranger who you don't know. You're just kind of like, I need a little bit of help, and I know you're busy, but could you please stop and help me out? So his question is this the right stop or the correct place to wait for this 370 bus? You could say 370. Generally, people wouldn't say the 370 bus. We often kind of break it down into two sets of numbers, 370. This would be similar if we're talking about a hotel room number. I'm in room 370. You often wouldn't say the full number, 370. So the 370 bus, where is it? What the heck is going on? He wants to know.
Yep, that's a bus, I guess, in Sydney, Australia. And the local says, yes, you're in the right place. It should come here. So, yes, you're in the right place. You're at the correct station. The bus should be coming soon. Don't worry, you're not in the wrong place. And Otto says, thanks. But then he's looking at his phone. And he says, according to this timetable I found online, it's already 10 minutes late. Is that normal? So yes, indeed, nowadays with our phones, we can check out timetables on our phones. We can go online and figure out when trains are supposed to come or when buses are supposed to come. You don't need to rely on the information at the bus stop. It's very convenient. There are many apps that can provide you with this information as well. He did find the timetable online, but according to the timetable, the bus is 10 minutes late. Is that normal? Does that always happen, or am I missing something?
That does seem a little strange. So the local wants to kind of investigate this for Otto a little bit more. So the local says, let's have a look. And at this point, we can imagine Otto either gives the phone over or sort of shows the phone, shows what he's reading on his phone to the local. And then after looking at it for a moment, the local person says, you're looking at the weekday schedule. Oh, okay. So something's wrong with the schedule for the situation they're in here. The weekday schedule is the normal Monday to Friday schedule that most people would be using. There would be a weekend schedule and maybe a holiday schedule where the buses are probably less frequent. They will come at longer intervals, and that seems to be the problem. The local says, today's a public holiday, so buses run less often. Okay. Otto might expect if it's a Saturday or Sunday, the buses might be less frequent or run less often, the way the local expresses it, but it could be a Wednesday, but it's Kangaroo Day in Australia, or I don't know, Anzac Day, or it's a public holiday.
Koala, wallaby, whatever.
Koala Awareness Day. There you go. Whatever holidays they might have in Australia. And that's the day it is. So it is a weekday. It is a Monday, a Friday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, whatever. But it's not the weekday schedule on those holidays. It's the weekend schedule. Anyone who's ever taken the bus here in Taiwan during Chinese New Year, you'll notice that up the bus stations, at the bus stops, they often put a sign up that says, for this week, the buses will be running much less because fewer people are taking them, and we want to give the bus drivers some time off. And so that's what's going on. So you have to plan a little bit more or just be patient. So Otto is now, well, relieved to know what the problem is, but also maybe slightly annoyed that it will take longer. But at least he knows. So he says, I didn't know it's a holiday today. That explains it. That is the reason why the buses are not running on the weekday schedule.
And the local says, yeah, you might have to wait a bit longer, but the bus should come Eventually, okay, so the buses are not running as frequently as they normally do, although the buses will come, but there aren't as many buses on the schedule today as there are on other weekdays. So the local says, yeah, you'll have to wait longer time, maybe not too much, an extra 10 or 20 minutes or whatever, but eventually, finally, after a period of time, the bus will come. That's what eventually means. Finally, after a long wait or a short wait, it could be, but in the end, it will come.
Thanks for clearing that up, Otto says. So yes, when someone explains to you what's going on, they kind of give you more reasons and it makes your understanding of it complete. You say, oh, now that clears that up. That answers my questions. That gets rid of all my confusion. Now I understand what's going on. So it doesn't make a bus suddenly appear, but at least Otto knows what's happening. And also if he takes a bus later that day, he can adjust his plans because he knows the buses won't be so frequent. Great. Next, we're going to move on to our fourth and final dialogue. What are we choosing here? Oh, yes, the fastest option, because sometimes you don't have time to waste.
4. Choosing the fastest way. Tess is on her way to meet a friend at the Sydney Opera House, but she's running late. Excuse me, I'm trying to get to the Sydney Opera House, but my phone's not working. What's the fastest way to get there from here?
Let's see. It's peak hour right now, so the roads are pretty jammed. A bus or taxi might take ages.
Unfortunately, I'm already running late.
I'd suggest taking the light rail then. It might be a bit packed, but of course it avoids the street traffic, so it should be faster overall.
That sounds perfect. Where's the nearest stop?
Just down that street, about a 2-minute walk.
Thank you so much.
第二部分介绍名词 opera 表示歌剧。我们可以说 The music of an opera is usually performed by an orchestra. 歌剧的音乐通常由管弦乐团演奏。又或者说 We went to see a famous opera at the theater last night. 我们昨晚去剧院看了一部著名的歌剧。最后看到 unfortunately 这个单字，它是副词，表示遗憾的、可惜的、不幸的。我们可以说 Unfortunately, Gabby couldn't come to the party. 遗憾的是 Gabby 无法来参加派对。另外一句 Unfortunately, we missed the last bus home. 不幸的是我们错过了回家的末班车。
Okay, here's part 4 of our lesson for today. We're choosing the fastest option. Of course, when you choose transportation, you've got different choices. You could take a taxi, you could rent a bike share, for example, or you could take the bus or the train or whatever. And of course, sometimes you're in a hurry, so you need to choose the fastest option. And Tess is on her way to meet a friend at the Sydney Opera House, but she's running late. Okay, so of course, you know that famous structure in Sydney is the Sydney Opera House. It looks like boat sails. It's quite famous. It's right next to the harbor there. And it's the Opera House. Be careful with the word opera because I've heard a lot of people say opera. When I first heard that, I thought, what are you talking about? The accent is on the first syllable here. Opera, that's when you got the lady with the horns on her helmet singing. Singing like that. If you're into that sort of thing. But in any case, she wants to meet her friend there. I don't know if she's going there to see Ida or the magic flute or whatever.
Rigoletto.
But, indeed. But she's going there to meet her friend there. Maybe they're just going to take a tour of the opera house. But yes, she's running late. She's not on time.
I think they do other things at the Sydney Opera House too, don't they? Probably symphonies, ballets, other concerts and stuff. But anyways, yeah, it's a very popular place and probably also just a popular place to meet people because it's right downtown and it is a very beautiful area of the city with wonderful views. But that's all besides the point because she still has to get there. She's running late. She is behind schedule and she has no time to waste. In fact, she's trying to hopefully catch up time by getting there in the most efficient way possible. So she says, excuse me, I'm trying to get to the Sydney Opera House, but my phone's not working. Oh, troubles on troubles. So not only is she late, but her phone doesn't work. So calling an Uber, that's impossible. impossible. Looking at a schedule for the trains or the bus, that's impossible too. Her phone's not working. When you're overseas, sometimes getting data, getting service can be a problem. For whatever reason, the phone has failed her. So what's the fastest way to get there from here? She asks a local person. Please help me out. Please give me the best and most efficient directions to get to that opera house.
Indeed, and a passerby here says, let's see, it's peak hour right now, so the roads are pretty jammed. Okay, that's the time when people are most on the roads getting to and from work or school or whatever. In North America, at least in the U.S., we say rush hour, but I guess in English-speaking countries in the Commonwealth, like England and Australia, New Zealand, etc., they say peak hour. What do you guys say in Canada?
Rush hour.
Rush hour, okay. So it's rush hour or peak hour right now, so the roads are pretty jammed. There's lots of traffic on the roads, and the passerby thinks that the bus might take a very long time. It might take ages.
Ooh, that is too long for Tess. She says, unfortunately, I'm already running late. So, if she had extra time, if she was early, maybe a nice relaxing taxi ride where she can enjoy the view as she goes through the city, that would be great. That'd be fine, no problem. But no, not today. She is running late. That means she is already behind schedule. She could just say, I'm already late, but running late kind of gives this idea of motion and action and activity, and we are behind schedule. We are running out of time very quickly, and this is unfortunate. Unfortunately is what you say when you're delivering bad news. Basically, you're saying, here's something that I have to tell you, and it's not good. Unfortunately, we lost your suitcase. Oh, no, that is terrible. Unfortunately, you didn't get the job. Oh, no, that is bad news. I am unhappy to hear that, or it is just the result of bad luck. But either way, this isn't a good thing. She's already late. She can't take a bus or taxi, especially if the roads are jammed or crowded with other cars. The passerby says, I'd suggest taking the light rail then. Okay, so they have this train system that goes above ground. That can take her from where she is to the Sydney Opera House, but it does come with a bit of a problem, or at least a drawback. It might be a bit packed, but of course it avoids the street traffic, so it should be faster overall. This is the advantage of rail systems, either subways underground or light rail overground. They don't have to stop for red lights. They don't have to stop for pedestrians or car accidents or things like that. Because of that, they can get around the city much more efficiently than on the surface roads by car, but they can be crowded. It's a bit packed. If you've ever taken Zhengzhou line in Taipei City at rush hour, you're never going to get a seat unless you're very lucky. You're probably standing with lots of other people. It's packed. It's very crowded. You are packed in there as if you're all crowded into a very small space, which of course you are. But the good thing is, as the passerby says, it avoids the street traffic, so it should be faster overall. It might save you 5 or 10 minutes, or maybe even more than that, but overall, when you take all the things together, even walking there, going down, waiting on the platform for the train, cramming into the train, or whatever it is, in the end, you will save time. Overall, it will be faster.
Right, it kind of depends on where the light rail runs. Some light rail lines run down the middle of streets, so they might be affected by the street traffic, but a lot of them have their own railways. So I assume that's the case in Sydney there. They can avoid the street traffic, so it should be faster. Overall, peak hour or rush hour does not affect the speed of trains, especially the trains here in Taipei. If it's rush hour, the trains run on the same schedule. Tess says that sounds perfect. It's a great suggestion. I will take the light rail. I've got the card. I'm all set. Where's the nearest stop? Where can I get on the light rail so I can head to the Sydney Opera House to meet my friend?
Just down that street, about a 2-minute walk. And I can imagine the passerby probably pointing her in a certain specific direction. Go to that street, walk down the street. You'll see the sign. It's good to remember the kind of sign and design that they have for light rail stations or subway stations, because once you see that, you know you're in the right spot. But it's about a 2-minute walk, so it's just a block or two, and then you'll get to the station and just wait for the train, hop on the train, and you should get there, and maybe you'll even be on time or not too late. Thank you so much, says Tess, as she probably hurries off to find that light rail station and hopefully make it to the Sydney Opera House before the first act of whatever wonderful performance she is probably going to see.
Indeed. And of course, in Australia there, they have lots of different modes of transportation. I assume the light rail does go to the Sydney Opera House, or at least gets close to there. And of course, if you're going to go to Australia, Melbourne or Adelaide or whatever, you should probably check out their transportation networks first so that you don't get lost yourself. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分的对话标题是 Misunderstanding the timetable， 弄错时刻表。那这个动词 misunderstand 表示误会误解，它是由字首 mis 表示错误的不好的，加上 understand 表示了解理解，这两个部分组合而来。那我们来介绍一下 mis 这个字首，它可以表达不好、错误或是缺乏等等那种否定啊、不适宜的意思。当这个字首跟动词结合的时候，三态变化会跟原本的动词相同。那我们用 mislead 这个动词来当例子，它是由字首 mis 表示错误的，加上字根 lead 表示带领引导，合在一起 mislead 就表示误导，使什么产生错误想法。那由于 lead 它的动词三态是 lead, led, led， 所以呢 mislead 的动词三态就会是 mislead, misled, misled。 好，那我们以下再补充几个带有这个字首的单字，像 misuse 它是由 mis 不当再加上 use 使用，合在一起 misuse 就表示误用使用不当。再看到 mishandle 它是由 mis 表示不好不当， handle 表示处理，合在一起 mishandle 表示对什么处置不当。下一个是 mistrust 它是由 mis 表示缺乏， trust 表示信任，合在一起 mistrust 就表示猜疑不信任。好，那对话里面的 Otto 他向当地人确认公车的站牌位置，接着他问说，根据在网络上找到的时刻表，他已经晚了10分钟，这正常吗？好，那文中用到片语介系词 according to 来表达根据，那我们来整理它的不同意思。首先第一个呢，就是课文的用法，可以表达根据什么所说，依照什么所记载，那么后面可以接人或事物，用来说明来源或出处。那第二个意思，它可以表达依照什么什么的指示，后面常常就会接规则或是说明。例如 He put the toy together according to the directions on the box. 他按照盒子上的说明把玩具组装起来。那下一个意思，它可以表达取决于什么，根据什么而定。那么后面常常会接一种分类评量的标准，像是 They arranged the books according to size. 他们根据书本大小来排列书籍。好，那对话里面的当地人就告诉 Otto 说，今天是国定假日，所以公车班次比较少，可能还要再等一下，不过公车终究会来的。这时候 Otto 说 Thanks for clearing that up， 谢谢你的说明。那这边整理一下 clear up 的不同意思及用法。首先它可以当不及物用来表达天气放晴，像 The sky cleared up in the afternoon， 下午天气放晴了。那第二个它可以用及物用，我们用 clear something up 或者是 clear up something 来表达把什么解释清楚，弄明白，厘清，解决的意思。例如 They have cleared up the misunderstandings between them， 他们已经厘清彼此之间的误会了。那最后呢，它可以当及物或不及物用去表达使什么消失，可能是疾病症状的消失，也可以表达痊愈的意思。例如 The rash will clear up in a few days， 疹子过几天就会消失了。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Misunderstand. Natalie misunderstood the directions and went the wrong way. Timetable. The bus timetable is posted near the station entrance. Eventually. Marty worked hard and eventually became a manager. Opera. Ada watched a famous opera at the City Theater last night. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, it started raining during our picnic. Overall. Jack got a few answers wrong, but overall, he passed the test.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.